Alright, our presentation was Chapter 7, Comprehension Strategies. Just a basic overview of the chapter. The goal of comprehension is to teach students to be self-regulated readers. Teaching students how to use comprehension strategies will help better themselves as comprehenders of their own reading. Teaching comprehension strategies should be part of a student's normal routine, and as a teacher, they should be taught and modeled regularly. Students will learn how to use strategies by practicing them and being given numerous opportunities in the classroom. Alright, one point we found to be important was understanding fictional text and structure. The behavior that's observed is that the student does not understand how fictional texts are organized. Stories usually have 7 main elements: beginning, middle, end, repetition, plot, setting, characters, and theme of point of view. Teachers should model specific keys to look for before, during, and after the text. Some of the strategies that we found were story maps. Students can complete an outline with 7 elements given to them. Story frames, in which the students are given a sheet with 1 element on it to focus on and asked to complete the sheet during the story. Story pyramids, in which the student will write the name of the main character at the top, 2 words to describe the setting, 3 to describe the character, 4 words in a sentence to describe an event in the story, and etc. on down, making the pyramid wider. Understanding informational text structure. The behavior observed in this strategy would be a student who does not understand how informational texts are organized. There are 3 different kinds of informational texts: narrative, expository, and mixed. Narratives are text in the story format. An expository is a text that informs students about a topic, such as animals, places, or events. And then mixed would be a combination of the 2 informational texts that are written in narrative form. Some strategies that we found useful for these were graphic organizers, idea mapping, which is explaining the patterns of organizational and informational texts, describing the sequence, comparing cause and effect. Expository text investigation, which we've talked about in class, as the student will read a variety of books and compile information on those books given to the rest of the class as a way of choosing texts. And monitoring reading, which a student does not monitor their own comprehension. Due to the complexity of monitoring reading, the teachers should model strategies that will help students learn proper ways to grasp the concept of monitoring. One way would be to define the word monitoring with your class, see what it means to them. Students can keep a chart describing the book paragraph, the problem that they had, what they did to try and solve the problem, and if it worked, and if not, continue on with trying new strategies. Another one that we found from the book was called The Critter, which is a fictional thing that you would make up as an inner voice to the students, to keep that in their mind when they're reading texts, to be asking themselves questions and seeing if they're understanding exactly what they're reading. And a comprehension checklist, which lists out the steps the students need to follow and gives them questions to answer for pre-reading, during reading, and post-reading.
Alright, the next section we thought was important was summarizing ideas. The behavior observed is that the student has difficulty summarizing during and after their reading. It's important for students to think about what they're reading as they read, and they think, is it okay to stop during independent reading to think to themselves and what has happened so far in their reading. The first strategy is a writing summary. they're given a short passage, and this basically we ask the students to determine the main idea of the text. After that, they create either a graphic organizer to separate the remaining information that supports the main idea they find. The next strategy is guided reading and summarizing procedure. Basically, the students read a passage, they discuss the main parts of the story. Then we have the students reread the passage, and they have to look for information discussed after the first reading, and then they add on additions that they find after the second time. The last strategy is paraphrasing. Basically, they read a text, they write down their initial thoughts and facts from the text. They read it again and then make additions to their previous information they found the first time. And then after the second time they read it, the student will gather all the information and basically paraphrase it or summarizing it using only the important information they found. The next section, 7.7, making connections. Basically, the student does not make connections while reading, so as a result, most students automatically make connections to text without even realizing it. So we think it's important to teach strategies that activate the actual knowledge to further their meaning. The first strategy is called thinking hats. Basically, students take turns wearing different colored hats that have different discussion topics on them, and then each hat represents a different connection that the student should have made between the topic and either other books, school subjects, and personal experiences, and then they compare them. The next one is the think sheet. The students identify the main issue in the passage that they have read. Then they will create questions about the topic, explain their ideas about the topic, and ideas they have found in the text with other students. And then the last strategy is directed reading connecting activity. The students are encouraged to make predictions about the text and what they're about to read. After they have read a portion of the text, they relate the book to the previous reading. And then this process can be used multiple times during the reading of a text. So the strategy we want to demonstrate is called a story pyramid. Basically, the teacher picks a fictional story and reads it out loud to the class, or each student can read it independently. After that, the students are put in groups randomly. Then the teacher distributes the story pyramid to each person in the group, and then also puts it on the overhead projector. Basically, the first line in the pyramid is what the students have to write down one word that names a character. The second line is 2 words that describe a character in the story. Line 3 is 3 words that describe the setting of the story. The next line is 4 words in a sentence that describes the problem. And the 5th line is 5 words written in a sentence that describe one event. Then after that, the students are encouraged to share it with their classmates. And also, the teacher can add additional lines for like the climax, resolution, connections, or anything like that to the pyramid. So this is an example of a story pyramid. I know it's hard to see, but basically it's just like we outlined before. There's 5 lines. The students have to fill out each line with the different criteria that we tell them, and then it can be added. It's basically in the shape of a pyramid, like we said.
So obviously, giving this presentation in class, we would have our class talk about just a book that everyone knows. That way we could fill out the chart, but it starts obviously with 1 at the top and then increases by 1 each line down to the bottom being the widest to make the pyramid.
Alright, and this is our article. It's called Understanding Reading Comprehension. A little outline of the article. Basically, the main idea is that comprehension requires the reader to be an active constructor of meaning for everything they read. Some of the strategies that were outlined was like activating prior knowledge. While when you're reading, you have to think of prior experiences or connections or knowledge that you have to relate to the text. You, like I said, make connections. You have to set purposes. Also, making predictions is very important. Like we already discussed, summarizing. Also, visualizing information or pictures from the book can also really help you comprehend. Always asking questions throughout reading the text, even before and after. Monitoring your understanding. Clarifying and connective strategies too. And the last one, you can reflect and apply information. And basically the last thing to outline was a little teaching model. Basically it's like from the student's perspective, it's show me, help me, let me. that is it.